Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan Battle video. In this video we are going to be talking about the brand new Dragon Ball story event, or the brand new revamp of a Dragon Ball story event, the Galaxy Crisis Super Guy in the Galaxy. Now this event is a revamp obviously of the BoJack movie event, and basically it doesn't really add too much new, although it adds a pretty radical support memory. Something I think will help people in Red Zone. I myself have used it in Red Zone, and also it does of course refresh all the stones, and it adds a pretty nice event to permanently farm training locations from, which I think is pretty good. Stage 2 I believe drops training locations, which is obviously great, and yeah, across the board I think there is great incentive to do so. Now obviously there are a couple challenges involved with getting the support memory. They seem to be doing this, which I don't really mind. It requires you to build your team with certain members in the team so that you can obviously complete the challenges. Now each stage of the story event does indeed have a different unit requirement. I am going to be building a single team that will complete all of the unit requirements from the very beginning. So this one team will cover all of the requirements, and that should enable you to just kind of run through the event and basically claim the support memory at the end. I will also only be using free-to-play units for this, so hopefully if you use my team or follow my guide, you'll be able to complete everything in one go and get the support memory and get all the rewards ASAP. So obviously, there's a couple requirements here. Also, not to forget that there is a team bonus. That team bonus is Hybrid Saiyans. Unfortunately, obviously, one of the requirements is to use an Earthlings unit and a Turtle School unit. We're going to be using Krillin for that, but it is important to note that obviously with that being a requirement, it does technically make it quite difficult to maximize team bonus. So just remember that you do have to sacrifice maximization of your team bonus for completing the challenges. But if you are just farming things from the event, rather just run a Hybrid Saiyans team and maximize your team bonus, because that is way better for you. You don't want to be in the situation where you are, obviously like trying to maximize stuff or trying to do this, and you just end up like running this team and you forget, and then you end up in the situation where like, oh wow, I'm not really getting that many rewards, I'm not really getting that many training locations. So try and remember to change your team to having Hybrid Saiyans. Now with that being said, the challenges pretty straightforward. Earthlings, obviously there's one for Vegeta's family, for Trunks, there's one for Bond of Master and Disciple. You need to have 2 of those units. It's generally quite easy. Trunks covers a lot of the requirements, which makes it pretty straightforward. Not to mention that the Krillins, there's a couple of free-to-play Krillins as well. So generally speaking, I would say it's easy to complete these challenges free-to-play, but if you are struggling, you can use summonable units if necessary. I know not everyone has Prime Battle Krillin, for example, or things like that. So you can definitely use summonable units. I'm just using free-to-play units to show players the options they can farm or may have farmed from various events, because I know sometimes that's a little bit easier than just using summonable units or LRs or things like that. But just remember, if you are obviously using the different like builds and stuff like that, just remember that team bonus is dependent on rarity of units. So if you are trying to maximize team bonus, you do want to have higher rarity units, LR units, TUR units, things like that. So now we've set up the team to complete all the challenges. It's just a simple task of running through the challenges and completing them. You shouldn't really have too many issues doing so. I can't see there being a massive issue for this, at least not on paper. Some people might have an issue with it, but yeah, for me generally, like especially if you're using even just these free-to-play units, the stages are not hard. So obviously if you're brand new to Dokkan, like super brand new, you haven't even worked on any of your units or anything like that, you don't have any teams, you don't have any units, you don't have any SA, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, but beyond that it should be pretty straightforward. And it's a great event to grab stone rewards from. You are going to get a ton of stones from this. Old players, it's great for us because it's stones returning back. It's a refresh of the event. There's like literally 20 stones just in the stages alone pretty much. So there's great value in this event. You're not going to be left struggling or be left not enjoying this event. I think it's great whenever they do this. Hopefully they add in an EZA for the Gohan at some point, or a Dokkan Awakening. I think that's the only thing I'm not really so ecstatic about. Gohan obviously doesn't technically have an awakening yet, which I think is a little bit of a shame. They could have redone the event to really give him an awakening and make him really, really good. He's got a first awakening, but he can still awaken once more before he is on a TUR level. But there are still some great incentives for doing this. Like I said, there is obviously the training locations that you can get from stage 2, which is great. And just remember that there are some missions for making Gohan have 10 out of 10 SA and for Dokkan Awakening. So just remember to do that as well. It's not just completing the characters, that's only for the support memory. So you do want to obviously keep that in mind. Now, with that being said, the support memory is very, very good actually. It's super duper helpful. It's an interesting one because it only kicks in from stage 5. But from stage 5 it gives you an attack and defense boost. So it's pretty good, it's for 2 turns. But from stage 5 you'll be receiving an attack and defense boost. And essentially it can really help you out in longer events. Like in Red Zone, it's quite a nice one to use. I used it for my fight against Janemba, and it really helps you because once you get to the more difficult phases of those kind of events, you do just want that little bit of a boost in attack and defense. And I think it's there where it really does tend to help me out. I've noticed that it's pretty cool that it works like that. It actually provides a nice little buffer, and especially in the movie bosses Red Zone, because it gives you that additional attack and defense, but it also gives you an additional 10% attack against Red Zone bosses, because it gives you 10% additional attack if you are facing a movie boss character. So it's pretty helpful to have in that situation, and because of that I think it's actually really rad how that support memory works. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with how they've designed everything, with how they've done it. And yeah, for me, I think it's definitely worth getting. I've used it to complete a Red Zone stage, so I guess that vouches for how useful it is. It may not seem like a lot on paper, but it's going to take the edge off of some of those big, attack stats that those bosses have. And if you are going with a hard-hitting team, it's always best to have an additional little, a little input, a little bit extra beefiness to your team. So yeah, for me, I was really, really happy. Really, really, really fine with how this build went, with how this event is. I'm really glad with the rewards that they give. And I think, like I said, if you are looking at doing it, please, make sure you do it. There is value in doing the event. Obviously, there's also the story element to the event, which you can see I have switched on now. And the story element you need to switch on. Obviously, you elect to have the scenario on. And it is cool to revamp the stories and give them the story elements. I think it's quite sweet of the developers to go out of their way to add these little cutscenes, to add these little elements and little videos and things like that just kind of help us in recapturing a little bit more of the story, and to give it a little bit more of a story vibe, rather than just making it just stages that you run through. So yeah, I always think that is an added perk of the story event revamps, and I think it does help. It does make it feel a little bit better. I think it brings it up to speed a little bit, gives it a little bit more of a cinematic edge, and I think that's always valuable. It's always super valuable to have a little bit more emotion and kind of playability to the event beyond just farming the stages. I'm not saying you're going to play the event because really recaptures, you know, the spirit of when you watch the BoJack movie. But it's cool to at least recap like what happened in the actual movie, rather than just like, oh, these stages are this, and I don't really know what each stage has. Like, at least I know why I'm doing the 10 stages, which is always cool. It's always something that's rad, at least for me. Obviously, it could be, yeah, a little bit better, but at the same time, I think they do a pretty good job. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Obviously, I'm not gonna go through every stage. I think that's kind of a waste of time, to go through every single stage. You guys don't really need to see all of that. As long as you've seen the team build, you're basically fine. And like I said, the support memory is worth it. You know, it is that nice little boost. You can see we've got it completed there. So yeah, it is something that's very worthwhile. And farming the Gohan's also decent. Like I said, he isn't a great free-to-play unit from the perspective of he definitely could be doing better. He could definitely have a lot more going on about him. But at the same time, you know, it is worthwhile to pick up these units. You can use them for chain battle and stuff in future. That's going to be it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, or leave a comment if you need any help. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. But until then, take care, stay safe, and bye.